Hi everyone, Matthew Donovan here, and welcome to the November update for my 2018 resolutions. This is the second video I just recorded. October, and I'm way behind. On that theme, really November was trying to act like a duck. And if you don't know about this analogy, you haven't heard of this before, basically the way a duck functions is above the water, it looks fine, right? It's just floating above the water, and below the water it's paddling frantically to try and stay afloat. And I heard this analogy once and it stuck with me. For the most part, I think I've been pretty good at managing everything that I've been doing. I think I have a lot going on average. I like to keep myself quite busy, but I think one of the TAs put it quite well back when I was still running for election, before the election was over. He said, Matthew, I thought you had a lot going on. I thought you were always doing a lot. And then I learned you were running in an election. And that stuck with me, right? I think for me, I'm always doing a lot. So when I look objectively at what I'm doing, I think, well, I'm not doing that much, right? I'm just a TA, and sure, I'm TAing a third lab instead of two, but really that's not a lot of extra time commitment. And, the case practice, that's only every Sunday for a brief period of time. It's not the full day, maybe 6 to 8 hours, depending on when it is. And I'm doing this and that. And for me, I look at it and it sort of all fits together, but I'm doing a lot. And I think that all really culminated in November when I had a lot of midterms, group projects going on, and really it was sort of like a duck trying to stay afloat and really try and stay above water. I think looking at this school term, in September I took a week and a half off in order to travel to Italy and then Hungary for a case competition, and that was right at the start. So that would be manageable, right? It's a week and a bit off, but it's right at the start. Not much is going on. It should be very easy to recover. But what happened was I got back, and right away I went right into election mode, right? I'd taken a week and a half off. The other people that I was running against had been very active, and I thought to myself, I need to go on the offensive again, right? So I was putting out Facebook posts and videos and door knocking and all of this, signs. I think that was another huge thing that I didn't actually talk about in October, but it was in September, the end of September, when my signs came in, that then I had to go out and put all these signs up, right? So part of it was talking to people and getting people who were willing to put signs on their lawn, but the other part was just driving around and putting them up in region of Waterloo property or in the township of Wilmot. So really, I got back from this trip and it was go on the election. And yeah, I had a couple of midterms in October, and it was pretty well right before those midterms is when I would get caught up with everything that needed to go on. But November, the election was done, and it was trying to just get caught up with everything that was going on in terms of school. And I mean, now we're in December, I'm midway through the exam season. We're going to see how that's ultimately gone. I think as a result, my grades will be lower, but again, I really enjoyed that experience running for election, but November really was a lot of trying to get caught up. And as a result, really I looked at languages and I said, I haven't done anything when it comes to languages. So switching gears now into the resolutions, on the languages front, I didn't do a single thing. Now that we're in December, I've started working on languages again. I'm very excited for that. I've tried to fit it back into my routine, but we'll talk about that in December. But during November, basically there was nothing. And I'm not happy with that. I love learning languages, and I wish I could have spent more time, and I'm looking to make sure I can do that going forward, and really looking at, okay, how do I integrate this into my day-to-day? And I think one of the things, now I've purchased a waterproof speaker. So when I'm showering, I'm able to listen to music or to audio, right? And in the past, sometimes I would just play music, but now I can look and say, is there an audio course or is there an audio lesson that I can play when I'm in the shower and take some of this dead time or downtime and use it for languages. I think there's a trade-off here because you don't want to be so jam-packed. I know that I do find myself, I love to stay jam-packed through the whole week, but I also like when I have a Saturday where it's not fully packed, right? And I have a couple of hours or a full day or a half a day to just take my foot off the gas pedal and relax a little bit. So I think it's important to balance that, but I'm looking forward to integrating languages back into my routine. On the book side, no update on terms of reading, but I did buy a bunch of books, and I think that is something that, I sort of seem happy as I'm talking about that. It's a double-edged sword because I keep buying all these books, and the Japanese have a word for it. I think it's Sundoku, Tsundoku, and I think I'll edit these videos, so I'll actually try and put it at the bottom of the screen here. But Sundoku basically means acquiring reading materials, but letting them pile up in one's home without reading them. And that's exactly how I feel. As I see these books and I buy these books and I don't read them. And I talked in the last video about the 12-week year. What I bought in November was a book by Annie Duke called Thinking in Bets. And she's a former poker player, World Series of Poker champion. I don't have her curriculum vitae on the screen, but she tried to take, or she has taken what she's learned in poker and trying to apply it to real life and saying, look, we're never really 100% certain about any decision. So it's all a matter of thinking about bets and what is the odds of that and what are the odds of this other outcome and which odds are more favorable, and really looking towards the process of making decisions instead of the decision itself. You might make a decision, you might make a poor decision that turns out okay, right? And I say poor decision in the sense of your thinking behind the decision wasn't well thought out, right? Maybe you just picked an option at random as opposed to using the information that was available to you. So you might make a bad decision that then turns out okay. And on the contrary, you might make a good decision that doesn't turn out so well, right? Based on all the evidence you had and all the facts, you made the decision and it didn't work out in your favor. So we shouldn't look to that and become disappointed by that because we did the best we could, right? We made a good decision. It just didn't work out for us because it's not 100%. And that's what I've gained or gleaned just from watching some of her videos and talks that she's done at TED, and she has one that she did at Google that's in my queue of videos to watch, but I'm really looking forward to reading this book. And I think I finally have the time now that we're in December and exams are pretty well done to do that. But that's an example of a book I was really motivated reading, and I follow her on Twitter, and she's got lots of great tweets. Looking at that and saying, wow, this is something I want to read. So I bought the book, and now it's just a matter of finding the time to read it. So that was the update on terms of reading. I still haven't done any reading, but I'm acquiring more material that I'm very motivated and excited to read when I do have the time. And I think December is when I will have the time. Or I better have the time because this is something that's achievable to get 6 done. 6 books read by the end of the year, and I can still do that. Yes, they'll be backpiled, and maybe all 6 will be read on New Year's Eve, but I'm going to get this one done. Exercise is a different story. It hasn't been done. Didn't make any update in November. I might do a little bit. I think I might try and go swimming once or twice, and I'm not sure I'll be home with my parents for the holidays, and I'm not fully sure, but I do think now they have a treadmill in the basement. So if they do, that'll make it really easy, and hopefully I can run once or twice. So there won't be much progress. And looking at this goal objectively, I think I'll say that this goal was a failure over the course of the year. But again, that's why we make all these goals. Is we make 50 goals, maybe we can hit 25 of them. Well, that's better than hitting 10 and either meeting all 10 or not succeeding on all 10, right? So make a lot of goals and see what we can succeed on. And I think I'm sort of trying to do something similar next year where I'll make smaller goals or a smaller number of goals, probably just as aggressive, as opposed to just aiming at too many different things. But again, we'll talk about that next year. But the main goal, there's no update on the exercise front. So co-op is the next goal. I've started to look for places that I'm wanting to apply to and starting to send out a couple applications, but really no update on this front. This is more of just an independent setting out applications and seeing what works and figuring out where. I think is question one is where do I want to work? And then applying to that subset of jobs, as opposed to just applying everywhere. But I worked at Sun Life for my last co-op, but I continue to do part-time work for them. And November actually was a very busy month. In addition to trying to get caught up on school, I was trying to do a lot of Sun Life work as well. There's a lot that was sort of piling on, and I kept pushing it off. So I sat down and I did a lot of Sun Life work. I was in the office or taking calls well throughout the month of November, more so than I think I'd done in the past. So that was good. Maybe it was a little bit of additional time that I shouldn't have been spending. I probably should have been focusing more on getting caught up with classes and everything going on there. But I did spend more time on Sun Life, and the final goal, or the final resolution for November, was to stay involved. And I continued to be a TA. There was a lot to mark during the month of November. The students each handed in an individual case. So in total, because I had 3 labs, I had about 75 cases to mark. And as I'm sure you can imagine, that took quite some time. So really it was, every time I had a spare minute, let's mark one here, let's mark one there. We had about 3 weeks to do all that marking, and one every now and then a couple of big days where I just sat down and said, I'm going to start marking in the morning and I'm going to end in the evening. And one day actually was quite good. I started marking here, and then I went over to the public library for a change of scenery, and I came back. So really I just marked through the whole day, but really had 3 different changes of scenery, which helped to keep me going. But that was a lot of marking, training as well for the new year for case competitions. So we've confirmed where we're going. So we'll be at the John Molson undergraduate case competition in Montreal. That's the end of February, the first week in Montreal. So there's some overlap there, but we're gone Sunday to Sunday. So it's a 1-week period there. So we're training for that. That is a monster of a competition. There are 3 short cases, so 3 cases that are 3 hours in length. Then there's 1 case that's 24 hours in length. So just comparing that to Spain, which I was at last year as the bigger of the 2 competitions I've participated in. Or I guess it was this year, but last academic year, back in March of 2018, that had 2 3-hour cases and 1 24-hour case. So JMUC, again, it's the same time frame, 1 extra 3-hour case, so there's a lot more going on there. And there's also a 5th case that we need to do ahead of time. So before we even go to the competition, we have to do another independent case. I imagine similar to a 24-hour in terms of the demand and caliber of presentation and competition. But we need to record that one ahead of time and submit it, and it's actually used in case of a tiebreaker to figure out who advances. So really there's 5 cases that we'll need to be competing or practicing and getting done within that month, but 4 of them within that 1 week. So that's a huge competition. So there will be a lot of training and practice in the new year for that. But that's really the biggest thing on the case competition side, is now that we've confirmed where we're going, because we needed to wait to make sure or to see if we were accepted. Now that we know that, we're setting our sights on that and practicing for that competition. So we know we're going to train for 3-hour cases. We know what the format's going to be in terms of, do we have laptops? Do we have access to the internet? All that type of thing. Or I guess not do we have laptops, but how many laptops would we have? So now that we know those types of things, we can better practice. And the other thing as well is the emergency response team. So that's going pretty well the same as always. I'm trying to push for a website, and we had a meeting with the Students' Union to see what's going on there. That's one of the main causes that I'm trying to push for this year as the promotions executive, is getting a website built for the emergency response team. So we had that meeting with the marketing department of the Students' Union, passed the idea over to them, and they're just taking a really long time to get back to us. So hopefully we can get some progress on that front. But other than that, I continue to shift bi-weekly. We have our weekly exec meetings and social media posts and all that's going on. But that's the main goal for the emergency response team. I'm pushing for a website, TAing. Really, it was marking those cases, and also I was helping out, one thing I just thought of now, with the tech on the back end to do a live stream we had our final presentations for a Starbucks consulting case. So the students were working on a case. Starbucks Canada wanted to grow their loyalty base, or they want to grow their loyalty base in Canada. So they asked the students, how should we do that? In the form of a strategic partnership? Is there one company that you can identify that we should partner with? Why would that work? What would it look like? So that's what the students wrote their individual case on, 75 of those that I have to mark. Then the students are put into groups of 4 or 5, and then within the labs, there's 5 or 6 groups within each lab. One group moves on to the semifinals, and then from the semifinals to finals, and ultimately 6 teams present to Starbucks executives, to Starbucks employees, as well as some other people who were on the panels. But I was helping behind the scenes, in addition to helping to write that case as well, helping behind the scenes on the tech, making sure the live stream worked, getting the YouTube all set up, and troubleshooting issues. So that also was one day, the actual thing, but also a couple of days leading up to it in terms of preparation and making sure it's going to work. Because one thing that we've learned is that this technology never works. So that was just one of these other things where really it's running full steam ahead, and there's a lot of other things going on the side that I need to make sure are going well as well. So with that, I think November really was the month of trying to catch up and running below the surface in order to stay afloat. And we'll see how that all turns out now that I'm in December, written a couple exams, one more still to go. So we'll see how that all ends up. But as always, thanks for watching. I'll be back in a couple of weeks near the end of December with another update. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.